Okay, I wasn't sure I was going to get to be able to do a follow-up interview before I have to travel again. I have to jump on a train fairly soon, and I'm not bringing my laptop with me. From there, I'm jumping on a sailboat, and I'm going to be offshore for about 2 or 3 days. So I thought I'd do a video as to what's going on. I did a slight update to my code from last week because even then I was short on time. This is the Android version. This is the iPhone version. These are the this is the list view. The changes that I made were that I added color to the icons based on the color from the RESTful server, and they work pretty much the same. By the way, I figured since even though there's no URL for a product picture, we're using, if you look at main.dart, we're bringing in the HTTP library, and I figured, well, you know, I may as well do some other HTTP stuff with it. And so what I'm doing is I'm just linking to a remote photograph. All right, so what's different? I've got a note here saying that the Android version is probably not going to work because Android devices have a local host. So when you're doing an async call to localhost, it's going to think that it's talking to the Android phone, which will refuse the connection. But I made some changes. What I've done now is I'm testing for Android versus iOS, and it's a little bit bloated code. It's kind of redundant code. I should change it, but I'm short on time. So so let's walk through let's confirm that they both work. All right, so iPhone works and Android works. The only thing I don't like about this is I'm using material design for both of these projects, which means that they use the default behaviors on the platforms, and I don't like the default behavior on Android. So if I had a little more time, I would convert this to the Cupertino library, which behaves like the iOS version. See, everything slides from the bottom, and I just think that's wrong. I think everything should slide right to left. Alright, as far as running the code, I don't believe that it makes sense for me to share everything. What you really want to do is go from Android device, you go File, and then New, and then there's a new Flutter project. Just create a new Flutter project, and then you're going to have a lib directory, and it'll have a default main.dart. There won't be a readme in there. Just take the this code, this main.dart code, copy all the code into the new main.dart. Just delete the existing main.dart and copy the new stuff. The reason why I say that is because, you know, I try to keep this as simple as possible, as stock as possible. Notice I'm only importing a couple of libraries to convert in the async because, you know, you have to have them. And then a couple of packages, and then there's Dart.io for the platform stuff. But that's all kind of stock. I could have gotten a lot more sophisticated. Alright, so let's go through the code. We begin with the main. We're beginning a new material app, create a new home page. Pretty stock stuff. We create a this is the homepage class. It's a stateful widget, not a stateless widget. All right, so that's a little bit different than a stock app. If you do a brand new app, then you're going to get a stateless widget because, well, list views are stateful. They change. And then we have to, and because we have a stateful widget, we have to override our create state class. And we create a new homepage state, which is here. I create a variable which is of type list that I'm calling data, and then I've got a future which returns strings that that's using the async library, but I'm calling it getData. So getData is actually called in the init state. Where is init state? There it is, init state. So the stock app doesn't actually have an init state, so you have to override it. So, and to override anything, you have to call the super init state. That's just, you'd have to do that in any development platform. So there's getData, and getData is going to populate list. I'm sorry, it's going to populate data. All right. So this is a feature, which means Dart is a single-threaded application. So futures are futures and promises streams. They're you have to give them a great deal of respect, because if I were to just make a remote call, the single thread is going to lock up until the call returns. But with future, we create an await. Well, we add an await. We do a get, but we're waiting for the get. Another way to have done this is to use a then clause. So you get the URL, then there would be like a dot then right there. But I didn't do it that way. I'm just doing an await. So so the thread will continue past this await state, and then when the await state returns, it's going to call a set state. Now, set state is what you use to update your stateful widgets. Stateful, if it were stateless, then stateless would not respond to a set state. It may even error. I'm not quite sure. And so what I'm doing is I'm populating data with the JSON decode call, which is coming from the body response. All right, so response is right here. And when I'm done, I just print the very first ID just as a test. I could have taken that out. And then I return success. And I'm actually not testing, I'm not catching any errors, which is bad code, but this was, we're supposed to do this fast. Same scenario here almost exactly, except now I'm testing for an iOS device as opposed to an Android device right here. And the reason why I do that is because with iOS you can use localhost and it'll actually go out to your local computer. But with Android, because they have a local host, you have to use something like you have to use a 10.0 IP address. I don't exactly understand why this works, but I've used this in the past and it seems to work okay. Although I usually do my RESTful APIs on remote servers. So doing it locally like this is kind of, I wouldn't say it's new, but all right. Init state, of course, is fired when the whole application first begins. All right, we have to stateful widgets or stateless widgets, and all widgets basically. You have to override the build widget, and this is where our scaffold comes in. And scaffold was one of the vocabulary terms that I was quizzed on during the interview. So scaffold has an app bar and it's got a body. So there's the app bar, and I'm adding vyc02. If I wanted to, I could change this vychallenge. And then I just I save it. And check that up. There. See, it changed because I have it set to iOS. If I were to save this to Android, it'll probably change here as well, or maybe not. Well, it should. You can't expect hot reload to work every single time perfectly. But if I were to save this and run it again, I'm going to be late for my train if I don't get this done soon. All right. I'm not going to answer that. Okay, so there's the body. Body. Normally, you include a like a container of some type, like a row or a column or something like that. But a third option, which is a little more advanced, is to do a list view builder. And list view builders can include something like a list tile, which was another vocabulary question that you guys were asking me about. But I'm not a huge fan of list tiles. They're okay. They're nice because they have the on tap event built right into them. But what I'm doing instead is, well, with every list view, you need to get the count, and then you build. Then you have to create an item builder. So every cell that goes into the list view, you build with the item builder. And I'm returning, my first container isn't actually a container, it's a gesture detector. So that's how I'm handling click events. And so gesture detector has an on tap event. It's actually got, well, it's got a lot of stuff actually. It's got on tap down, tap up, on tap, tap cancel, double tap, long press, vertical drag. So you actually have a lot more power with gesture detectors than you do with tiles. So anyway, I'm using the on tap event, and the first thing I'm doing is printing an index. So what am I looking at right now? Let's see if it works. I'm going to have to set this back to iOS, I think. Yeah, there it goes. See? There it is. Index 3, which is right there. All right. So this is the on tap event, and the first thing we do is we create a navigator push event, and that's the thing that scaffolds also bring to the table, is navigation. So in this case, I'm actually building my navigator route dynamically, but navigator page route. But there's other ways of doing this. Like there's another cool feature where you can actually create navigate. I'd like bring up my other code. So if I can find, I may do show you the other ways of doing navigation that are kind of cool. So you create a builder and passing it to a to detail screen, which is another class. This is the detail screen. So I click and I go to a detail screen, and I'm passing it the ID, the name, the color, the description. I could have combined that all into something like a structure, and probably should have. Let's go to the detail screen, which is right here. And I create all my IDs as an integer, name, color, string. These are all strings. And then I build them. Because it's a class, you have to have a factory event. And I believe that's the factory right there. Then you override the build event, and you're returning a scaffold. And there's the app bar. Like if I wanted to, I could just take the app bar out completely and save it, and watch this right here. See, the app bar is gone. So I'm going to put it back in. Oops. I'm going to save it, and if you observe here, there's the app bar again. All right, there's the padding. There's the body, and the body begins with padding. And I don't need that padding there, actually. I should have taken it out. It's not really necessary. Oh, it is necessary because, well, no, it's actually not necessary. I probably just included it because up here I've got padding for the cards.